Thank you for joining in for another episode of Lips Garage. This week we're going to get through the rest of the engine swap in the 1969 Fairlane, at least as far as I've got it done thus far. Again, ran into a few hiccups, a couple of changes of plans, as happens with all my projects it seems lately. But we'll see how far we get this time and what I've got to do for the next one. So let's jump right in. So in a previous episode, I showed pulling the engine, transmission, everything out for the transmission swap. I've got everything cleaned up and degreased. Got to mark off and mask off for painting before I start putting everything else back in. Might take the pressure washer after one more time, just get everything where I want it, do some painting. To make room for the 351 I've been working on. So previous episodes, you see me putting this together with the front sump pan for the station wagon I'm working on. So that plan is going in a little bit different route, which left this engine, which is not the bored over one, but that leaves this one ready and available. So I've already ordered up a replacement oil pan to fit into the Fairlane, a few other pieces to put it together, and I will get the headers and make sure the headers clear what I need. I will be replacing the water pump line this far, and then off of my donor engine, I should have the front drive that I need. Where I'll be running into some questions is going to be ordering up the right pedestals, rockers, and push rods. So I'll be contacting the manufacturers and doing my math, and we'll go over that on another episode. So this one here, as I talked about before, with aftermarket, we got the FR heads. We've got the aftermarket intake, and we want to look at this lip. So I'm doing all the pre-fitment right now. That lip is pretty tight on, pretty well machined, so I shouldn't have to worry about anything there. I will be getting head studs as opposed to just regular head bolts to go into here and into here. We've got the manifold. I'll probably do manifold bolts on that one. We'll see how that goes. But again, as I was saying in the Ford versus the Chevy, this particular bolt hole is straight up and down versus the GM, the bolt goes in at an angle. So I like these better because you can put a threaded rod in to help you make sure you come down 100% straight. And I will show that when we get there. Got a couple different options. I do have the old Ford Racing decorative items. I've got the Edelbrock as well as the Fairlane manifold covers, or not manifold, I'm sorry, valve covers. So these are going to be the same regardless for which small block that you've got, so I'll be able to reuse those if I want to. This particular engine was in decent enough shape, and I probably could have been running that for a while without any super issues. Maybe throw a set of 351 heads on it, have it breathe a little bit better. But having the space, having the equipment, just made it really easy, and I've been wanting to do it anyway, so my ADD kind of kicked in and got it all stripped out. So that is the adventure that we're on next. So at this point, I've got everything disassembled. I've got the heads pulled off. I've got the oil pump pulled off. Got everything starting to get cleaned up. Here's the pan. It's the front sump pan. But let's head over and take a look at the other motor and realize I was running a front sump on this one anyway, so I can get it cleaned up and reassemble it as it was. Ended up ordering a part I didn't need. I did get a little bit nervous. This one does have a provision for the clutch rod, and I never double checked that on the replacement engine. So I was getting real super nervous about that, and then realized thankfully I've got it on this one. All right, so it's been a couple days. I'm still waiting on parts. I was doing some research, and again, I have to change up my plans. Now, a lot of the reason why I'm showing this is what the everyday people, especially the backyard builders, are going to run into. I want to do this. I find out I can't do this, so I need to switch it. I want to do this. Nope, can't do that. Need to switch that. So in the other shows, they're just going to show you everything went. Yep, this is what I want to do. This is real world stuff that's going to come up. So here's the 302 block that I took out. Here's the 351 block I've been working on. I thought, hey, I've got the parts. Let's go ahead and put on those good heads, good intake and all that. So with the research that I've done, I found out that I cannot use those heads with the stock pistons. Main reason being, not guaranteed to have enough clearance in this dish in the center for the more aggressive valves to open. So I'm still gonna run with the aftermarket cam that I got. I'm gonna put the factory heads back on. I took the time to clean everything up, replace the head gaskets, everything up above, just since I've got it out. I will clean up the valves and everything in the underside of the combustion chamber. So while I've got it this far, one of the things I talked about when I was cleaning it last season was making sure no rust got into the cylinder walls, because I was just using the regular water to clean everything up. So I went through, I did clean up every cylinder wall. I've got some penetrating oil in there, so I'm not running the pistons dry, and it does give a little bit of protection. So there are a couple of spots that I had to clean up that weren't perfect. Again, this isn't a big build, this is just one to have a little more fun. The other thing I did is put my crank bolt in the center of it, and I'm rotating through. Everything feels good. I don't have any, I don't have any kitching or any, hard spots or whatnot. Everything seems to be turning over well. So heading over to my other pile of parts. So I've got the AFR 195s, I've got the factory heads, ones that were on there. So I'm gonna end up putting those factory heads back on. And I will be using the Stealth intake. I probably could get by with the air gap on it. But I'm gonna go ahead and run the smaller stuff with what I've got and then get working on that other engine. Again, all this started out with a basic shifter swap. It does not take long to get from that to that. So yesterday, while I was waiting for parts, I did start doing some cleanup on the engine bay. So I've got to get this side done yet. Not pulling everything off, not masking. It's not going to be a show car by any means, but it will clean up a little bit. You can kind of see where I ran out of material there. So trying to keep myself busy in the meantime. But these are, again, our real world issues you're going to come up against, when you're building your projects. So when you're looking at a clutch assembly that is not hydraulic, it's going to be a lever arm. When you hit the clutch pedal, it's going to activate your clutch fork. It's going to pivot and push out your throwout bearing. Throwout bearing is going to push into the pressure plate and activate the clutch disc. Clutch disc is on the inside. Pressure plate is bolted to the flywheel, rotates with the engine. We need to make sure that we get the alignment of this spline, the alignment of the interior, and the alignment here all on the same plane, so everything works the way that it needs to. Yeah, when you've got a hydraulic one, then you've got line pressure work similar to brakes that will do that. On the older vehicles, which makes fabbing up exhaust and other parts so hard, is this piece here called the Z-bar. When you hit your clutch pedal, that's gonna activate this arm. This is gonna be your adjustment for the clutch pedal. Again, that comes down, hits here, activates that pivot, and activates the bearing. So taking a look after everything else, make room for the shifter. I did have to trim quite a bit of metal for all the linkages. They do make a filler panel for all that I may or may not use. I might kind of reform that with metal a little bit down the way too. Time being, I've got the carpet kind of reset where it needs to be. I do have the shifter. So we got, there you go. Reverse, first, second, and third. That will take me some getting used to in this particular car. I did take the column shift linkage off, so this is just free rolling. I will eventually get a column that does not have that provision. I'm not going to cut this up in case there's somebody that wants them. I know they're getting rare, and most people don't, but I'll get the right kind of column for it. I still have to hook up some of the linkages underneath. Parking brake works. The clutch pedal I've got to get reassembled, which is just a linkage. brakes didn't do anything with, and then the throttle pedal I've got to make sure is adjusted with the carburetor. So coming around, so I've got the carb linkage this way done. Here's where the throttle pedal comes through. Kind of hard to see with the lighting I've got right now, but this will attach to this, and depending on how you're threaded up that line is going to give you your full throttle range of motion in your throttle to make sure that you're all the way at idle and you do actually get all the way to wide open throttle. No sense in adding something about 3 times the power and not have wide open throttle. Again, leaving the brakes manual for now. I do like those. We'll see how it does with the extra power. A little bit of paint, a little bit of cleanup. So where I am at now, I have to finish the front dress, get the alternator set up, get the crank snout on, get the fan and all that on, get the distributor in, and then just a little bit of wiring. So another day or 3. Realistically, I should have this back on the road again. We'll see how much time that I've got. This is my update for now. So here it is 3 months later. A couple of things have happened since I shot that last video. I'm no longer with the shop I was doing the work in, so I do have the car back at the house. I was working on the front drive setup, and then realized there were a few things that didn't come over. The alternator was the same, but the bracket was different. The pulley on the crank was going to be a little bit different, again, because of that different deck height. And there are quite a few changes. The distributor I wanted to use was on back order at the moment, so I was looking at cleaning up the factory one, putting that together. Car's been sitting for a little while, again with the Wisconsin winter. And in the meantime, I have sold that engine. So again, changes happen when you least expect it. So I'm gonna focus on building that larger 408, 410 to go ahead and get in there. Car's down. I'm not gonna be missing out on anything with that one, other than a little bit of top-down cruising this summer. But I was able to, I did trade the engine for a 95 Ford pickup that has a 351 in it. That's what they call a roller motor. When I start digging into that engine, I'll explain the difference for those that aren't aware between the older engines, what I have a flat tappet versus a roller style. The biggest benefit is going to be more in durability than anything else. You can get similar performance, just a little bit different ways between the two of them. The roller engine does not require the specialty oil. There have been some issues with breaking in new flat tappet cams, whether it's installation or braking procedure issues, quality of component issues. But the last couple of years have been really bad for trying to break in flat tappet cams. And I'll get more into that when I get more into that type of engine to actually show what the difference is. But for now, that project is at a bit of a standstill while I work on some of my other ones. And hopefully come season 3, I'll be able to have some more updates with what's going on with that. As far as this week, that's what I've got. As always, I do really absolutely appreciate those that do tune in for this. If you feel comfortable doing so, as I say every week, drop a like, drop a subscribe. That does help me out, lets me know to keep doing these or not. Any questions, any comments, go ahead and throw them in the bottom, and I'll respond to them and answer what I can. I appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time.